It has been a while since I talked about Zapier, but Zapier just dropped a really awesome feature that changes everything in how you interact with the platform and how you run potentially in the future your automation. And that change is that they introduced MCP, which is Model Context Protocol. Now, if you give AI any attention on X or any of the platforms, I'm pretty sure you already heard about the concept of MCP or Model Context Protocol. And this was a revolutionary protocol that Anthropic dropped and gave everyone late last year. And this year just picked up like crazy this March. And now everyone's building applications with MCPs. The easiest way to describe what MCP is, it's basically a language. So it's a common language that you can teach potentially to your agent, and then you can host some content with that language on a server, and potentially, if you connect your agent to that server, speaking the same language without coding anything on your application, your agent, your AI agent, will be able to understand how to use the tools or resources that is there on that server just by communicating with it. So it will ask it, hey, how many tools you have? It will answer it, I have 5 tools. What are those tools about? Well, I have a tool to use the internet. I have a tool to use databases or access databases. I have a tool to write into that database, read from that database. What would you like me to share with you? And then the agent will say, okay, I would like to write into the database the MCP server that on the other end is connected to all those tools or services, will share with the agent the schema. This is how you give me the order. Please go ahead. And then the agent will give that order and get the feedback from the tool or the database. So this is pretty much how it works. We will have a quick look on the official website for the Model Context Protocol to really understand what goes behind it as a concept, but the focus will remain today on what Zapier has dropped. So I will show you what they gave us, and I'll give you an idea how to use it, and we will test it with Cursor, and I'll tell you why with Cursor later on. And with this, do not forget to hit that subscribe button and hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. And without any further ado, let's get started.
Subscribe to Daddy's channel, the mic.
So here we are. So this is the page where they talk about how they're getting into the MCP business as Zapier. Now, if you do not know Zapier, Zapier is a no-code automation platform, a robust one of the best out there. I've been using it for a long time. I have many automations running on daily and monthly basis on Zapier that I depend on to run this YouTube business every day and do much more with it. So this feature coming into Zapier will give my automations a lot of potential in the future. Today, it's limited to Cursor. In the future, I can show you what potential I can have through just Zapier giving us their MCP server customized per user of their own and to each action that you define for yourself through the Zapier platform, as we will see in a second. Okay, so this is what they're saying. Connect your AI to any app with Zapier MCP. So this is the language part I told you about. This is a connectivity protocol. This is something that will change how agents talk to tools and talk to databases. So this is the fastest way to let your AI assistant interact with thousands of apps. No complex API integration required. So basically they're saying here with MCP, you get to interact with the thousands of apps that are present on Zapier through your AI agent without any of that complex requirement of building that API request for yourself bit by bit. As long as that application is working in your Zapier automations already, your accounts are authenticated, this is already accessible to your AI assistants wherever you want. Okay, so this is a quick video on how to do the connection of your MCP server on Cursor. They did it as a case study, I would assume only on Cursor at this time, but what you can check out this page. I'll put the link in the description and you can just read it for yourself. Let's jump to the MCP website. So you can go to this link. I'll share the link in the description. This is the modelcontextprotocol.io website. And just quickly to go through the introduction, just for us to really understand what we are talking about here. I already explained it. Maybe this will be better for some. So this is the introduction. MCP is an open protocol that standardizes how applications provide context to large language models. Think of MCP like a USB-C port for AI application. Just as USB-C provides a standardized way to connect your devices to various peripherals and accessories, MCP provides a standardized way to connect AI models to different data sources and tools. So that's the way. It's just a standardization of how you connect to tools and data sources. Why MCP? Well, MCP helps you build agents and complex workflows on top of large language models. Large language models frequently need to integrate with data and tools, and MCP provides a growing list of pre-built integrations that your large language model can directly plug into, the flexibility to switch between large language model providers and vendors, best practices for securing your data within the infrastructure. So here you have the general infrastructure of how these applications that you might be considering building or you might already have built and you want to migrate to an MCP concept. But basically you can see here you have a host with MCP client. So basically this is the client where you can access the MCP server. You can actually use these tools and data sources through the MCP server. And then the connectivity happens through the MCP protocol. You can see here the MCP protocol, and you connect to a server. So here the MCP server, for example, let's say MCP server A is simply Zapier. So you connect to Zapier, and then through Zapier MCP server, you have access to local data sources and local tools, just for the sake of the example. Now this is containerized. You can see here these are containerized servers within the same computer. This is the example where you have access to the internet. So Zapier actually is on the internet, it's not within our machine. But the same concept applies. And you can have a different server that connects you to different set of tools or databases. And then again, you can connect through the MCP protocol here and connect to a third server that is probably on your PC as well. And then through web APIs actually interact with remote service C. This can have tools like we have with Zapier. This can have tools and data sources as well. Again, all facilitated through that MCP protocol. Now remember, your computer in this case is just for the demo. This can be a host that is actually hosted on a virtual machine, on a server, something that you use like Flowise or N8N. So that's a potential setup that you might have. So let's go to Flowise. Just quickly, this is one flow. I have agent flow that I run and it's active for me on Flowise. And you can see these agents here. I have around 8 agents, 1 supervisor, and what they do is all of them have access to a huge number of tools that you can see down here. All of these are tools I'm connecting to these workers to get things done for me as agents. Now, this is complex setup. Each of them, you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have at least 4 or 5 custom tools. Each of them required me to work with AI to code this tool to get something to happen. Now, in theory, when I have access to MCP here, and I'll tell you why I don't yet in this flow. So I tested this today to see if I can get it to work. Basically, I'll have to connect per agent only 1 custom MCP depending on what I want to access. So for example, if I want to access Zapier Actions or Zapier Tools, if I have access to Zapier MCP, I literally need 1 tool. That 1 tool will give my agent, without any coding, access to all of these actions I have on Zapier that we'll test today and implement. But fundamentally, this will make the flow way easier for many people. And in the future, today we have Zapier, and in the future we'll have more and more services actually offering you their MCP servers to use in such applications like Flowise. So the reason it didn't work on Flowise is the requirement on Flowise is to host the actual index file of the MCP server. Zapier doesn't do it this way. Zapier offers you a URL to access their actions through the MCP protocol. And this is not yet how Flowise works. At some point, Flowise will offer probably the access to their custom MCP node through using a URL. When that happens, I can use many Zapier actions without building these tools here in Flowise, and just by having this node. It's coming, and it will make that flow that I showed you 10 times simpler. It will be one agent with probably one or maximum two MCP nodes connected to it, and that's it. Okay, let's go to the fun stuff. Let's go to Zapier and play with it, and then actually get our AI agent to run actions through the Zapier MCP. Okay, so if we go back to the first page on Zapier and we hit get started here, it will take us to this page. And this page basically will give you your unique MCP server endpoint. And this is your instance or your access to the Zapier MCP server with your actions of your applications that are already authenticated on Zapier. And here you get your URL. And this is a URL to treat with real care, because this serves as a key and access to your instance of the Zapier MCP. So basically anyone who puts their hand on this can actually run actions on your behalf. So this is why they wrote for us here, use this URL to connect to the MCP Model Communication Protocol service. And what they're saying as well is a big caution over here. Treat your MCP server URL like a password. It can be used to run your AI actions and access your data. So you have to be very careful with it. And here you can see it is hidden. You can just, when you use it, hit copy URL. And if you're not sure if it got exposed, you can actually rotate the MCP server, basically change the URL itself, and then you'll have to reset it as a server. We'll go and connect this to our cursor. As of now, this is the one I found that works with an MCP URL like Zapier did. So let's go connect. I already did the connection. I just want to show you how to do it. And then we'll go back, do some actions. Some are already done. We'll build more. And then we're going to go and test all of that on cursor. Okay. So let's go quickly to cursor and see how we can connect an MCP there. Okay. So now here I'm on cursor. Let me open a project. So you can do it globally as an access to the whole cursor instances that you run, or you can do it per project. It's easier per project, safer per project to customize to your needs those accesses to the MCP server. So let's open a demo project, just a dummy project just to test this. And after that, we connect to the Zapier MCP server. So let's hit open project. Okay, so I created one called test. It has nothing really as a project. So on the top right here, we click on settings. We go to the settings tab, and you can see below cursor settings, there are side tabs. One of them is MCP. We click at this one. And here in MCP servers, we get the MCP servers list, and then we can read model context protocol is a way to offer new tools, yada, yada, yada. And then they give us a link to basically go and see how it works in cursor. We click at it and we go to this link. If you scroll down, they give us a way how to connect for different types of servers. So Node.js, and then Python, and then SSE server. Now, if we go back to Zapier, you can see it ends with SSE. So this is an SSE server. So we go back to the requirement here. We copy the code and then head back to a cursor one more time. So we click here on this blue button to add a new global MCP server. We paste the code as we got it from the cursor documentation. And here, if you notice, we have the environment and API keys. Those are things we don't need in Zapier. As we've seen on their website, we only need a URL, so we can delete that. And then we need to give it a name and put the URL. And you can see, because I had it before, it remembers the URL. So we hit accept here, and then we get that. Let's change the name. Already it's giving me the same thing here. We make it Zapier. We can hit command and save on this one. So now I have the name, I have the URL that I got from Zapier. Again, I will change this because now this is exposed. So again, be careful with your URL. Now, one note before we go back to the settings, I tested saving and going back, and I wasn't getting the server again. I noticed then there was 3 commented lines you get from copying the code from the cursor site. Just delete those lines, you don't need them. Those are the ones stopping the server showing in settings. So once you do that and you save this file and you close, you will have your MCP connection to Zapier in this case showing here, and you can refresh it every time you add actions. So now we are connected. This is what we need to care about. Let's go to Zapier, put in some actions and test those and see how it works through cursor. So, okay, going back to this page, here I have edit MCP actions. If we click at this one, if we click at this button, it will take us to the action list. Okay, so we get to this page. I found some actions already here. I think those are actions actually from the days where we used to use Zapier actions into GPTs with OpenAI, but I added a couple of them. One is send an email to my wife just to test it. I didn't want to send an email to everyone, and then just create a draft email. Now those are already there as actions. Now what we're gonna do is add more actions. Just to show you before we add those actions, if we go back for a second to cursor, what we're going to see here, if I click for the screen to zoom, you can see those actions showing here. So now we need more actions to be part of this MCP connection. So let's go back and build some more. Okay, so what we do is click this add new action, and then we'll have to look at one of the actions that's part of the thousands of actions in the Zapier library. Let's try something with Airtable. So I'll just put Airtable, and options are populating. So we have one, create record. Let's have that. You can see once I selected the action, it auto-populated my credential and other things. Now I can have everything done by AI. So for example, I can actually ask the AI, hey, why don't you put a new note for me in this table? It will figure out which is the closest name to that table or database, and it will add a record. You can do that potentially, and it will be highly accurate, by the way, with the models that we have today. I do not want to do that. I want to be a little bit less random, just not to mess with any of my actual records in my Airtables that I use every day. So let's start with the base. I'll put a specific base, and then we'll see what happens with the table. So let me hit a specific base. I'm gonna go with the YouTube automator. This is manages everything I do on YouTube. For the table, let's keep it random. So we'll see how AI will assign this. So have AI guess the value of this field. And then you can put more information here. So we can show all options. But one important one is the name. So this is the name that the large language model can correlate with the action itself. So here I would say create record in table, basically. Okay. And we can hit enable action. So now we have an action to create a record in Airtable. So this is in the YouTube automator, and we have one to create a draft email. This is the one that I'm going to use. We can build more and more, but I think those two are enough to showcase the capability of MCP servers. So with this, let's go back to cursor and start playing with it. So let's go back to cursor. Here we can close now the settings, and we can open our agent. And here I can simply ask my agent to do things on Zapier. And you can see I didn't do a single line of code with Zapier. Everything I've done is actually on the MCP server of Zapier. So let me first ask to add a record in the one of the tables in that base that I selected to put in a comment. For example, I have one of the tables where I put my personal comments around how I do content on YouTube. So this is what I wrote to it. Add a new comment for me on Airtable on the YouTube comment table that I need to keep my videos shorter, and write it in your own way and with some extra advice. Now, before I run this command, let's go back quickly to settings and go back to MCP. And you can see here, before I showed you that the actions show here. Now we need to give it a quick refresh. Yep, and now you can see that create record in Airtable is created. So this is one more action accessible through this MCP server to cursor. Now we can safely hit send to our agent, and now it will realize what it needs to do with just being connected to the Zapier MCP server, and it will prompt us to take the action, say run or not run. You can see here it's telling us we're calling the MCP tool. Shall I run the tool? I'll say run the tool, and now it will go and do the rest for us, and we can go to Airtable and check what kind of comment it put in there. So it's done. You can see the tick here. Let's go to our Airtable, and you can see here there's a new one got added just now. So if I click at expand, it's telling me guidelines for creating engaging short videos. It's giving me more details on how to do that and how long to keep my videos. 7 minutes is very hard for me to stay within, but you can see I just got my agent to add a note for me in the Airtable just through having access to the Zapier MCP. So I will not need this. Actually, let's keep it for a second and do one more action. So let's go back to cursor, and here let me follow up with a request I'll just ask it to create a draft email talking about this. The second instruction I gave it is create a draft email for me sharing the same instructions with others. Create all details for the email, and I will add the emails later. So basically, without actually telling it what to do. So it has the context of the notes or the comments it gave me to do my videos in a better way. Now I wanted to create an email, draft email for me using the draft email action for me to send later for others. So we'll hit send, and imagine if you use one of those voice command type of applications with a cursor that are out there, so you can actually dictate these things just by talking to it. So here again, you can see it is calling the MCP tool and it's calling the create a draft email. We hit run and it's already done. If I go to my Outlook and I look at my drafts, so this is a test I did before, and now this is a new test. And you can see here, hi team, I wanted to share some important guidelines for optimizing our video content, yada, yada, yada. So it has everything. It has a placeholder for the signature and even a placeholder to put the emails. It also set the subject for that email, which is super interesting. So here you have it, folks. Now you understand what an MCP server is, how it's beneficial, and how to connect Cursor with your Zapier MCP server and the potential for that in the future. The more we get in terms of accessibilities and features on certain clients like Flowise, I'm going to show more demos around that because this is super interesting and it will make anyone able to create complex flows with complex tools just through accessing this MCP server protocol and linking tools and databases to their agents. So if you have enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit again the subscribe button, like the video, share it with others, tell me what you think about it in the comment section. That's what matters the most for me. And with this, thank you for watching and giving me your time, and goodbye.
Subscribe to Daddy's channel. Give me the mic.